stars in the spotlight, secrets in the night. Headlines take flight, we're the keepers of the light. The talk of shame, we know the name. Fame's the game, join the flame.
Hi guys, how is everyone doing on this lovely Sunday? We are going to get into this Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I hope you have been binge watching since I think it premiered Friday. I was lucky enough to get some advanced screeners. So I've actually watched this show twice at this point because I was like, let me see. I want to watch it on Hulu just because. Why not? And if you haven't binged, it's fine because, even what we talk about today, after we talk about it, you're still going to be like, what is this show about? I need to go see it. Because I truly do think it is one of the greatest reality shows that has come out in a long time. Because I do think that, I think that we reached a point in reality where obviously it had gotten just so formulaic of a lot of the shows. And this harkens back to like early 2000s when almost like people didn't know what reality TV was going to be like. And so I feel like all of these cast members give us their all. Like, we're going to talk about obviously, the people we love, the people we hate, but like even Whitney, who I'll talk about, who I think was the villain, she's even like a perfect, reality TV villain. So hopefully she comes back next season. I mean, I know the way it ended, who knows if she's still part of Mom Talk or what. But I first wanted to get into, because some people had a lot of questions about, we have the show Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, but then we also had Mom Talk, which already existed. And there was the whole swinging scandal that went along with it. And some people were like, I'm trying to understand how each of these characters plays into it. And, Kate Kennedy actually posted this today and tagged me. And I guess maybe when Mom Talk happened, maybe I posted this. I don't even remember, but it was so super helpful in understanding sort of the breakdown of everything. So this is kind of not, super big, but basically, you have the core group of what started as Mom Talk, which was Taylor, and then we had Miranda, and then we had Camille. So they were what is considered, I guess, OG Mom Talk. Taylor started it. And like, I think the running joke, I didn't follow Mom Talk at the time. I was getting caught up when the whole scandal broke, but kind of the running joke was, Taylor would pretend to be Miranda and Camille's mother. She was acting like she was like a 40-year-old mom and a grandmother. And that was really how Mom Talk started. Miranda and Camille are not on this reality show. And, people, were asking why. There was a lot of people were alluding to, well, Camille and I think Miranda said, it wasn't a right fit for their family. They decided not to do it. Taylor sort of made a shady TikTok against that, saying that wasn't the real reason, really alluding to they didn't want to be on the show as long as Taylor was a part of it, allegedly. That's what was being said. So, I think when this whole scandal broke, it seemed like the production companies really did come to Taylor, Miranda, and Camille at first. But Miranda and Camille decided not to do the show. Now, there were other people who were already involved with Mom Talk. Macy, I think, was part of it. Whitney was obviously part of it, but they weren't part of the swinging scandal drama. And even though no confirmations have been made, people have denied the swinging happened other than Taylor. Taylor's been the only one who's been really forthright about the swinging. All the allegations were around supposedly, I believe it was, sorry, I can't really see. I think it was her husband. Let me open this. I think it was, because I need to see a bigger screen, but he professed his love to Taylor, is I think how it went down. So it was Miranda and her husband Chase. So Chase supposedly professed that he had feelings for Taylor. Taylor did not have feelings for Chase, but allegedly the person that she crossed the line with was allegedly Braden, who was married to Kenna. Of course, none of that has been confirmed. These are all allegations. But when the whole swinging scandal went down, basically Taylor says, people were making Reddit posts about, what was going down. And she did this live to reveal her truth and said, this is what went down. We were throwing parties. She was having parties, sometimes at her house. Sometimes they called them these cabin parties. And they were essentially doing, it's like high school games, spin the bottle, guys wanted to see like, oh, I want to see you make out with my wife. And it became sort of this soft swinging thing where, they were swapping partners as long as the other partner was there. And it would never go as far as like full blown intercourse, but, allegedly oral, making out, those sorts of things. And even if there was a group of people who would attend those parties, because I think even Demi said she had gone to those parties but didn't know that was happening. There were people who'd go to just like mom talk parties, and then people would leave, and then the core group who was doing the soft swinging would stick around. And that's really how it was going down. And, Taylor said at some point, they were kind of going to go like full hardcore. It was like, because at some point the couple started actually having sex with each other in the same bed, but with their partners, but next to each other in the same bed. And then she said at one point, her husband, Tate, they were there with this other couple and they're about to get into it. And he was like, this has to stop, because like, what if one of you gets pregnant and we won't even know who the father's going to be? And so he sort of shut it down. But Taylor was kind of like, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying this. Again, so she kind of crossed the line and ended up having, relations with the person after. So then that's how basically these divorces happen. Taylor divorced her husband. She's now with Dakota. And then I think Miranda and Chase ended up getting a divorce as well, and have moved on. So then we get into 2 months after this scandal broke, they start filming for this reality show. And so the people in this, reality show are the ones, we see. We have Taylor, we have Whitney, we have Layla, who I think she's kind of a newer one. She's been in a couple of videos, but she doesn't have as many followers. Most of them have like millions of followers. Layla doesn't have a bunch of them. Jesse and Demi, and then we have Jen, and then we have Macy. And so really like the soft swinging couples aren't a part of this series other than Taylor. And so I know a lot of people were kind of like, thinking what was going to be the point, because if, the swinging couples, but I'm telling you, there's absolutely a point, because I mean, really Taylor makes the show. And I will say, make sure you are subscribed also to Shenanigans, because Sheena and I got to interview Taylor and Macy, and it was a really good interview. And I felt like, we talked about a lot. I won't reveal it here because I want you to listen to that episode, but that will come out this coming week. But I feel like people who had an idea of who Taylor Frankie Paul was before the show, I just feel like I told her this, I said, after they watch the show, I think they're going to change their impression of you, because I kind of thought she was going to be like a mean girl. She's so nice. She's too nice. I told her she was like too nice for reality TV, super sweet. And Macy, I really love, because I felt like she was the most, peacemaker. She was like the most grounded. She was always trying to bring the group together. And I really just liked her vibe. She's the one, she was originally from Orange County. But so she's really cool. But episode 1 comes out, we have, Whitney, who some people look, I think that there's going to be people who absolutely love Whitney, and there's going to be people who absolutely hate Whitney. But, we come into this episode 1 where Whitney is returning to Utah. She's been in Hawaii for 2 months. And the belief is that she's been in Hawaii for 2 months because of the Mom Talk swinging scandal. And, because everyone sort of alienated Taylor at this point. Like, they don't want to be around her. So she's been with her husband, Connor, and her kids in Hawaii. Well, she's returning. Macy lets Taylor know, she's coming back permanently to Utah. And when she comes back, she does finally reveal, later on when she meets up, because she's like, I want to get this mom talk back together, but she still doesn't know how she feels about Taylor. She's kind of like, I don't know if I can trust you because you went on this live, you revealed all these things. It blew up my entire life. And so Taylor's thinking that's the reason she went out way to Hawaii. Well, we kind of find out that's not exactly the reason that she went to Hawaii, because there had been rumors going around the same time that her husband Connor had a Tinder profile. And Whitney denied it. She was like, someone's, using his old high school yearbook photos and posting that. That's not him. And that was what they had told people. When they get back from Hawaii, she has a conversation. She's like, look, I'm tired of lying to the girls. I want to tell them the truth. And she reveals to the girls, like, okay, it's true. He had a Tinder profile. He had a Tinder profile basically our entire marriage. I never saw this live, but I guess at some point they even went live to discuss this. In this live, it kind of goes into some of his past trauma. So, there's some things there which they don't touch on in the show. But, Whitney reveals he basically had a porn addiction, and that he did have the Tinder profile. He says he never met up with any of the people at all. Again, I have my questions around that. I have my questions because I was also like, are the people that he's talking to on Tinder, are they all women? Because I was also like, a little bit like questioning some of that. Like, I don't know. So, but they come clean about that. At the same time, they're coming clean about that in this meeting with the girls, getting the TikTok together. Taylor reveals she had gotten pregnant by Dakota, but she ended up miscarrying and losing that baby. And this is why people think Whitney is kind of the villain, because Whitney kind of feels like Taylor has taken away her thunder of like, I just revealed this like big secret about me and my husband, and you just go and talk about your miscarriage. Like Whitney very much, it's always has to be about Whitney. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't been paying attention to the comments. I'm getting used to that. Brianna, you said Taylor was so amazing. She seemed like the most willing to admit her mistakes. I agree. You didn't like Brittany. I wonder how much of that is editing. Misty, you said you're not a fan of Whitney at all. But on Nick V Pod, she is friends with her. So yeah, I think that here's the thing. I think that after filming, I have a feeling that they rekindled friendships. But what we know about reality TV is that when you start watching the episodes and you start hearing confessionals, it changes again because you have to relive this and you're now hearing stuff that wasn't said in front of your face. And sometimes people forget what they say because they're in that moment. So I think they're going to still be a change in dynamics in those friendships regardless. But everyone in the group obviously feels like Whitney is super jealous of Taylor because Taylor has just, she's just like one of those viral, likable characters, even though she, some people think she's very much the villain. Now, Whitney does reveal, when they kind of have a talk about like, why are you jealous of Taylor's clout? She's like, I'm not jealous of Taylor's clout. I'm actually just kind of upset that when I was getting like, taken down online for my viral video that went wrong, everyone still eats me up to this day. Now, what she's talking about, and I'm sure you've seen this, there was this TikTok that Whitney did. Her son was diagnosed with RSV and had been in the hospital. And she did this dancing video where she was like, it was just like little Lee's trying to breathe on her own and like doing all of the TikTok dances around this baby. And I don't know if it's in an incubator or what. And everybody was like, did you just do a dancing video around your sick child? And so she got a lot of online hate about it. And so she feels like that she got more hate because of this video and that people forgave Taylor so quickly online for this whole soft swinging scandal. And she's like, it just doesn't feel fair, which again, Whitney is like this delusional victim, which again is so great for reality TV She does not, she's so not self-aware, and people who are not self-aware make the best reality stars. They just do. They have no clue what's going on. Like, it reminds me a bit. Well, it's kind of funny because, when I think of like a unhinged Whitney, I obviously think of Real Housewives of Salt Lake City too, because I think that Whitney can also be on Salt Lake City, cannot be aware, but almost also reminds me of kind of Meredith Marks in a way, because Meredith like is very much like when things like, she takes it very seriously when she feels wronged by her friends, but it could be the most trivial thing, and it's hilarious to me. And that's kind of how I feel about Brittany. Um, Brianna says they come clean about Tinder, but there's so many questions about his sexuality and if he cheated or not. Yeah, I think there are. People do have a lot of questions around Connor. I still have questions around it. I'm curious, again, I'm curious if a lot of these guys are even going to keep their social media profiles public after, I should go look and see if some of their profiles have gone private, because I can't imagine, especially, we'll get into it, obviously, Zach, Affleck, Dakota. I imagine they're getting a ton of hate. I don't think Connor would be getting hate, but I'm sure people are questioning a lot of things about that whole situation, because it's, again, a lot of times when people do reveal the truth, they do it, but like sometimes there's more truth to come from it. So, we'll find out. And then episode 1, again, this is just episode 1, ends with Taylor getting arrested. Her and Dakota. Dakota's a recovering addict. I believe they said it was opioids. He's a recovering addict. And so he doesn't want to be with someone who drinks. And I guess, in the Mormon culture, that should be pretty easy. But Taylor at that time, was very much like, I still like to drink and, do my thing. So we see them at the end, of episode 1, talking about that. He's asking her, like, do you want to get married in the temple? Those sorts of things. And she's kind of like, no, like, and she's not even thinking about marriage. She just got out of a divorce and all of that. And she's just like, and she basically says, like, I'm going to drink tonight. And then cut to, we hear like a 911 call from a neighbor of Taylor's, who's like, it sounds like there's some domestic violence. I just hear, screaming, come. So cops show up and Taylor is wasted. And she tries to say that Dakota's wasted too. And he's like, no, I'm sober. And Dakota says that she was taking these metal chairs and throwing them into, Brianna says Zach is private now. I'm not surprised. So, Dakota's telling the cops that Taylor was throwing these metal chairs around the room. And I think on Nick Vile podcast, Taylor had revealed that she thought one of her kids was upstairs sleeping because it was late at night, and one of her kids happened to be on the couch and she didn't realize it. So when she's throwing around these chairs, they thought maybe her kid might have accidentally gotten hit by a chair. So it was just like a really nasty situation. Now, she also admitted, because if you see the body, because it's body cam footage that they're playing at the end of this episode, you see her saying, he threw me in the garage and he did this. And it sounded like she was trying to say that, Dakota was putting hands on. She has taken that back. She's like, he didn't do anything. Like, I was just saying crazy things. Like, he knew he was trying to control the situation, but he could only do so much because he's a man and I'm a woman. And he really was just trying to temper the situation. But she's the one that gets arrested for like domestic violence, basically. And so she goes and ends up being charged with, I think, aggravated assault. And I believe she got like 3 years probation. So that's why you see this major jump, because you see them picking up filming for the first episode 2 months after the soft swinging scandal broke. Then episode 2, we jump forward 11 months later, and she's about 8 months pregnant, Taylor is. So obviously they had to stop filming because she got arrested. And I think even the production was kind of wondering if they should even continue with her on the show, which obviously glad they did. But, you have that big jump, people of age, people like in the title cards, people have turned from like 23 to 24, And also, that's another thing. Everyone on the show is so young, like, they get married. Some of them get married right out of high school. The oldest voice of reason on the show is Jessie, who's 31. She's like the adult in the room, and she's 31 years old. So that is kind of, and then we kind of start meeting the other people. I mean, obviously, one of the biggest reveals is we find out, Michaela, who, let's see if I have, so she is the one who is here in the middle next to Taylor. Michaela reveals that she got married, well, she got pregnant when she was 16, and her husband at the time was 21. So obviously people had a lot of questions about that because I mean, I know that there's different age of consent laws in different states and but I was like 16, that feels. And so somebody said that the age of consent in Utah is 18, but they have something called a Romeo and Juliet law. And I was kind of trying to read about Romeo and Juliet law. Again, I think people have a lot of questions around that. I don't think that a 16-year-old who's gotten married and pregnant, but they don't really address that so much on the show. But again, I know that's going to be something that people, again, I have to imagine the husband's going private or something because people will have a lot of questions around that. And Michaela was super quiet, I felt like, most of the season until the very end at her birthday party where she kind of let Whitney have it. But for the most part, she's pretty reserved. You know what's so funny to me? So I don't know if you remember when I started watching Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, the first season, every time Lisa and Meredith were on the screen, I couldn't tell who was who. I don't know. I was always like, which one is Lisa and which one is Meredith? Obviously, I can tell them apart now. But in that first season, they just reminded me so much of each other. That is exactly how I felt about Jessie and Demi. These two women look like twins to me. And so I was having the hardest time in the beginning knowing which one was which. And maybe that's a Utah thing. Maybe there's a specific look. Utah, this is what was so funny about the show to me as well. Obviously in Mormon culture, it's like there's no drinking, they don't allow coffee, no tea, no caffeine. But the soda situation, the way these people guzzle soda, it also made me understand why Lisa Barlow loves Diet Coke so much. They have actual soda shops. They spend so much time doing the soda. And that's what's also funny to me is how there's certain things that aren't allowed in the culture, but then surgery, they'll do surgery, they'll do Botox all day long, they'll drink soda all day long. We find out a lot of these girls have been doing ketamine therapy. And it's just interesting, what is allowed in Mormon culture and what isn't. Now, obviously, I think, the biggest theme of this show pretty much is there's a group of sinners and a group of saints is kind of what they're referring to. The head of the sinners is pretty much Taylor, is kind of how it's, she's the queen bee of the sinners. And behind her is really Demi, Jessie, and I would say Layla. And then you have the queen bee of the saints, who is Whitney, and behind her is Jen Affleck. She always has to say his full name, Jen Affleck, Michaela. And I would say Macy is on that side. Macy is also on that side. But Macy, again, she's a really good friend to everyone. So she's a good floater between, bridging the groups together. Nicolette says, the Mormon rules make no sense. No hot caffeine, but cold is okay. Again, it's so weird because I don't understand why Coca-Cola or all of these sodas are allowed. I mean, I will say I'm interested in these soda shops though. They make really extravagant sodas, mixtures, and it's like going to a bar and you have someone really putting together all of these potions. I want to taste these sodas to see how good they are. And I'm also wondering if these sodas have a base mostly of club soda, because I can't imagine they're drinking this much soda and staying that thin. Everyone is in really good shape. But again, also they don't mind surgery. Now, one of the things that came out also about the husbands is we find out Demi's husband, well, again, we didn't find this out on the show. We found this out in real time. Sorry, my cat just wants to be in my way. We find this out in real time. So Demi is married to a guy named Brett Engelman, and he used to be married to Angie Harrington, who was like a friend of on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. They were married. They have two kids together. He also apparently, his sister used to be married to Larry King. Is it someone in Larry King or Larry King? So Larry King and Angie Harrington were once in-laws. And then I guess Brett also was supposed to be on The Bachelorette when Claire Crawley was on there, but then they had to stop filming because of COVID. And when it came back around, his scheduling didn't work. So he never made it he wasn't on film. But apparently Brett is like a big shot in Utah. He is hot. I mean, I'm going to say, like, to me, he has the hottest husband, I think. Yes. Oh, and yeah, speaking of family trees. So that was okay. I want to talk about this because, my family, Jeannie, if you follow my family, Jeannie, I saw her post the other day because the Afflecks, which I'll show you, we have the Afflecks Zach Affleck, who looks like something from Children of the Corn. Like, I can't look at him and not think Children of the Corn, is married to Jen Affleck. And he comes from it. Jen even says it herself, like they have such different backgrounds. He comes from very privileged, wealthy family. All of, like, it seems like the whole line of his family is all doctors. And so that's why he's becoming a doctor. And she says, my mom and his mom couldn't be any more different. She's like, for reference, my mom is a cleaning lady at the hospital where Zach's dad is a surgeon. So they're very different. And I think that Zach takes advantage of that, and he is, the most controlling. But my family, Jeannie, she had posted this thing because it was a quote from people saying Zach is Ben's first cousin once removed. His dad, Dave Affleck, is Ben and Casey Affleck's first cousin. Zach's dad has met them when Ben was very little. I'm hoping to meet him one day. During the show's premiere, Jennifer further addressed her relationship with the Afflecks, telling people that Ben and his brother, Casey Affleck, are more like distant relatives. But, my family, Jeannie, is very thorough in her genealogy background checks. And in her post and in her caption, she said, imagine claiming your husband is a first cousin once removed or a second cousin once removed to Ben and Casey Affleck when you're a member of the LDS, and there are beautifully documented family trees readily available online to dispute this. As for distant cousins, maybe take a Y DNA test. Ben Affleck's tree goes reliably into the early 1800s, and even the speculative next couple generations back don't cross paths with Jen Affleck's husband's tree. So my family, Jeannie, is saying she can't find a connection or anything that crosses paths, and saying, maybe there needs to be a different DNA test, but she can't find where paths cross. And I trust her. So I'm like, is your last name just Affleck? And you just tell people that you're related, because that, that happens at family reunions sometimes. Like, I've gone to family reunions and I've been told that, oh, you're related to this, guy on the Lakers. I've spent my whole life just saying, like, oh yeah, we're related to the guy on the Lakers. I've never actually looked into it. And I've just been saying that. Who knows if it's true? So, like, what if someone at the family reunion was just like, oh yeah, we're related to the Afflecks, and like they just ran with it? I don't know. I'm curious. I'm interested to see if we ever get any sort of like DNA test, or Ben Affleck ever says anything. Anna says, did not like Zach at all. He is the exact example of narcissist that takes advantage of young women. I don't think anyone likes Zach. I don't think there could be a bigger villain than Zach. There's every episode has so many things that go down. But I will say, one of the biggest things that blew up, well, first of all, we find out very early on, I think it was, I don't remember who asked the question, but one of the women asked, who of you is the breadwinner in your family? And they were all kind of like, and they basically said, all of us. So all of these like 20-something-year-old women are the breadwinners for their family. And you have Jen Affleck, who is doing mom talk, making money, brand deals, whatever. And Zach has just graduated from BYU, and he has to go to medical school, which they say is going to take 10 years. And she's been supporting the family. And yet he is the one that is always trying to control the situation, even though she is the one that is maintaining that household. It's the most infuriating part of this series is watching how these men try to have so much control over these women who are the ones that are actually in charge. And, Jen is always so trying to protect him to the point where, they go to Vegas. So they have a trip to Vegas that Jesse has planned. They're kind of going to make it also, I believe, Layla, it's also her birthday. So they're going to do like sort of a birthday / Vegas trip. And so Taylor is really pregnant. So Dakota wants to go to Vegas to make sure in case she, gives birth or something happens, he's along. So then Zach was like, well, I'm coming too. Well, it sounds like Zach has a gambling problem but Jen won't talk about it on camera because the producer off camera during her confessional says, can we talk about, Zach and the gambling? And Jen goes, well, as long as you don't make it look like he has a problem or something. I'm paraphrasing, but something along the lines where she's like, as long as you don't make it look like he has a problem. Cut to, he's like, I can't wait to get to Vegas. I can't wait to get to the poker table. And she's like, well, who said, you're going to the poker table? He's like, well, you said you'd give me money. She gives this man $2,500 to gamble in Vegas, right? First off, if you're a good gambler, I should be able to give you $100 and you can turn that into $2,500. I shouldn't have to start you at $2,500, first of all. But also, that's how much money, that's how well she's doing, that she's able to like break off $2,500 to her man to go to the poker table. So Jessie has a night planned out for the girls. She's not going to tell the girls because she knows their men are going to flip, but she's taking them to Chippendales. And everybody knows Chippendales is just, you're not seeing anything. It's a very just like Magic Mike situation, right? Well, she doesn't tell. They're on the party bus, so they don't know it until they arrive. And so then as soon as they see the sign, Jen Affleck starts freaking out, being like, Zach is going to lose it. So they go backstage, they're meeting the Chippendales dancer. Some of the girls are like oiling them up, they're taking pictures, and Jen is sort of freaking out. So she calls Zach, who, by the way, the women don't know this at the time, but he is sitting at a poker table. He's in the casino gambling with the $2,500 that his wife has given him. And she calls and he basically starts berating her, telling her, basically she has no morals, that he's going to leave her. Because I think even right before the trip, he said to her, let me get the exact quote. He said to her, when she was just like, talking about having fun, he goes, being divorced and taking care of 2 kids would be kind of tough, so you make the decision. He actually said that to his wife. Being divorced and taking care of 2 kids would be kind of tough, so you make the decision. Again, always threatening her with like, I'm going to leave you if you don't behave the way I want you to behave. So controlling. None of the women like it, especially the older woman, Jessie, who's been through this situation. She's like, you deserve better. So she's on the phone with him crying. And so she's like, I have to leave. So Taylor, her, and Michaela leave and go back to the house. The other girls stay at Chippendales. They get back to the house. Zach is texting her, I'm going to leave you. He's telling her that he doesn't love her anymore, that he's threatening to take the kids from her, that he's done with her, all over the fact that she stepped foot into Chippendales while he is gambling. Now we find out Dakota ends up writing him out. He's like, oh, well, yeah, he was at the table gambling till 2 a.m. And all the women are like, what? Because in the middle of the night, so all the women come back from Chippendales. Jen is crying. We see this text message that Zach has sent. Now I tried to get a good screenshot of it. I'm going to try to read as much of it as I can. I might need my glasses for this. Let's see. I'm trying to read. So he says, it looks like he says, seriously, I don't want to hear one more thing about your heart. Start taking accountability for your actions and the situations you put yourself in. You're a grown woman. Doesn't matter your intention. You were there, and that's the image you portray of yourself. Everyone you represent with this platform. The fact that you have, I can't really read. But anyways, you get the point. Oh, wait, you see the R word? Wait, where do you see the R word? Hold on. He said the R word. Where did he see that? Is that in the first paragraph or the second paragraph? He dropping the R bomb on her. But yeah, he sends this text to her and she's over there. It's the first line. I don't want to hear. Not sure. Are you? I can't read, but this is who we're dealing with though, is a man who sends these text messages while he is gambling his wife's money, the money she handed him, $2,500 away till 2 a.m. And he's sending her these awful things. He also, so then so Jen leaves. Jen leaves at 2 a.m. and they're all like, where'd she go? And that was when they found out he had been gambling. And then Demi said, I read through the entire text message, the entire text thread. And I'm so glad I did, because not only was he then putting down his own wife, he then starts tearing apart all the other couples. He said in his text that Jess had cheated on her husband. She said that Macy and Jacob were a joke because she walks all over him. She said that Demi is divorced and married to a 50-year-old because Demi's husband is, 46 or whatever, and Demi is like, 23 or whatever. And Layla's single. So he's just one of those people that tears other people down. And even Jen admits he has, he has narcissistic tendencies. And I'm like, well, I don't know if it's tendencies. I think he might just be a full-on narcissist. And we don't really see, obviously, Zach show his face anymore after that whole situation. But what was really troubling was she was gone. Jen was gone all the next day. And then finally the next evening, they're going out to dinner and they hear back from Jen and she calls and she's like, they're like, is everything okay? And she's like, oh, everything's great. She was like, it was much needed. Very Stepford wifey, very much. It sounded like Zach was sitting right there and she was trying to say all the things. She doesn't, and she keeps saying, no other man has ever loved me the way Zach has loved me. And they're all like, you're 24 years old. You married him when you were 20. You don't even know love. This is the only love you've ever known. How would you know that if someone's loved you more? It's really frustrating. And what's even more frustrating, he basically is like, wants her to quit Mom Talk, which she seems to do. Now, I don't know if that's really going to because I'm like, you want her to quit Mom Talk because in his mind, I'm going to be as soon as I finish medical school, I'm going to be the one that's the caretaker. I'm going to be providing for this family. I'm going to be making more money than you can ever have, which I don't necessarily believe. I'm sorry. I think that Mom Talk can make more than doctors. Let's be real. Most of these women I know on TikTok who with millions of followers, they can make more than doctors. They really can. And also, how are you going to pay for your way through medical school if she's not doing Mom Talk? Because Demi, again, going back to the gambling, Jen wouldn't really talk about it, but Demi reveals that she heard that Zach's family had given him a chunk of money to get through medical school, and he blew through it. I'm sorry. What? Alex says, wouldn't want a man who can't spell as my daughter. Oh my God. So I'm not surprised if Zach is private now. And at the end of it, when he said, I've gotten into medical school in New York and, you're going to come or you're going to leave Mom Talk, it looks like they were moving to New York. But from what it looks like online, it looks like he's in medical school in Arizona, maybe. I have to look again. It might be Arizona. Either way, I do still see it. Jen Affleck still making TikToks. Obviously, her most recent one that went viral was about how she's the only Jen Affleck now since J-Lo's getting a divorce. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I think Zach is the real villain. Whitney's just the more fun villain for actual Mom Talk world because she's again so delusional and doesn't understand why everyone and makes she victimizes herself in every situation. It's always about she'll leave a group chat, for instance. So she left the group chat and then she gets mad at people. Well, why didn't you call me after I left? Why didn't you chase me and find out what was wrong? And everybody's like, because we don't want to. And then like the one person who's had her back, Macy, the entire time, Macy's launching her baby mama line. And, Whitney shows up to some events, some not others. And Macy's like, well, she better show up to my event because I've been there for everything. And then she doesn't show up for Macy's event. And Macy's like, well, you know what? I've had it with you then. Hey, Kara says there's a lot of Mormons in Arizona too. So maybe it's like, Arizona is where he's at school. But Macy's like, I've been a good friend of you and you didn't even show up to like the major launch that I've been building this whole time. Like, and you're making this about you, like, screw you. Because at the very end, she does show up to Michaela's birthday and she's like, Michaela doesn't even like you. It's also funny to kind of watch every episode because I sometimes don't even know which one's Whitney because she changes her outfits and her hair and her looks so often throughout the season. You could tell this is filmed over a long period of time. I'm like, sometimes she's a blonde, sometimes she's a brunette, sometimes I'm like, what is she wearing? Because I feel like Whitney is trying to be high fashion, but sometimes I don't know if she's like wearing traditional garb. And I can't tell if she's trying to go high fashion or she's wearing like traditional wear. Towards the end, she just, again, she leaves the group chat. She says she's leaving Mom Talk. And then her and Connor start talking how they're going to become homesteaders, which I think is just basically people who live on a farm and they live off of their what do they call it? Like they grow their own food, self-sustaining farm there. It's called homesteading. So it feels like if Whitney doesn't come back to Mom Talk, it feels like she's going to go the trad wife route, right? Like, which is really popular right now. Rochelle says Zach is truly out there like Targaryen, lying on his heritage and lucking out. That Targaryen hair is a choice. I know. It is. He is like a Targaryen. And then obviously there's Dakota, who Macy and Taylor are really close. Macy doesn't really trust Dakota. And she just wants to make sure Taylor is like, doing the right thing. Now, at this point, Taylor is about to give birth any day. So it is what it is. But, Macy used to do these kind of IG confessional things where people would reveal things. And she said one day she gets a DM about how someone had slept with Dakota and they didn't, when they didn't know he was with Taylor and that she like doesn't know what to do. Everyone thinks it's this girl, Jenna. So the underlying kind of background between Taylor and Dakota is that when they were sort of starting out dating, he sort of lied about going out with his boys one night and revealed later that he had like hooked up with another girl. And Taylor's like, did you hook up with Jenna? Jenna was another person he was dating at the time. And he denies that he hooked up with Jenna. But she says, if I find out he dated Jenna, or slept with Jenna, it's done. I'm done. So in that confessional that someone made about sleeping with Dakota, a lot of the girls think, is it Jenna who wrote that in? And we find out, that Macy at the end has a call into Jenna. And we're going to find out, I think, like, did Dakota do something that he shouldn't have? And is Taylor, going to leave him? So obviously that's kind of probably where we'll pick up with season 2. I mean, season 2 hasn't been greenlit, but I can't imagine how it wouldn't be. And here's the thing, like, I'm sure Dakota has a past. There's no way he doesn't. But when you get on reality TV, even more, like I've already seen some Reddit threads about him. Like one girl went on a whole read him, like, because she was saying that he used to date her friend and she hated him and he was an addict and that he picked his nose and ate his boogers. It was, I was trying to find this rant this girl went on, but I was just laughing because she was just like, you're a booger eater. And that's the type of thing that's going to come out. And that's, again, when we talk to them on Shenanigans, I talked a lot about like, are they prepared for, what's going to come? Because a lot of these men especially did not come off great. And the internet is going to roast the hell out of them. I haven't gone to their social media profiles or any of that to see how they're getting roasted, but either way. Um, Brianna says, yes, she didn't fit into a modern woman, so she didn't want 80. That's how I feel, because I do think that Whitney, I think that she was jealous of Taylor just becoming this massive star. And I think that Whitney really wanted to be the star. And when the spotlight isn't on Whitney, she has to find a way to pivot to make it about her. So she's like, if I can't make it, in the mom talk world, even though she has millions of followers, she's making it in mom talk world. She's like, maybe I can go this route. She really always wants to make it about her. But again, that's why Whitney is just a funny villain. I just can't imagine how hard it is to watch all of this back now and just see how like bratty you come across and just how whiny, because you can see every episode that they have this conversation. Taylor is trying to make amends. Taylor was the one that was ousted. She lost all her friends and she felt like she had to like get back in. And when she starts discovering that other people have issues with Whitney, she's like, oh, I don't feel so alone. I thought it was just me. And like, I'm over here trying to like make amends. But either way, what else? I mean, that's pretty much it. I'm just saying it's 8 episodes, really good. Layla, we didn't really learn much about Layla other than, she got married when she was like 19. Now she's going through a divorce. So they have a divorce party for her. But we don't really learn much. Jessie, we got to see her have a labioplasty. She got her labia worked on. She's very revealing in her as a cast member. Misty says, has anyone else seen The Feed Keeps Buffering, or it's just me? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. I'm still getting used to this thing. Apologies if there's a delay. Hopefully it's better on the replay. That's really it. I will just say that I think that this is one of the greatest reality shows that's out there. Zach is a villain. I don't think that we care if we ever see him again. But I hope they start filming like right away and we can get this season 2 made immediately. And part of me wonders, I'm really glad they released all 8 episodes at once, but truly next season, if they decided to just like do it week by week, I'd be annoyed, but I'd be willing to get into it. So now we have Chimp Crazy tonight. So I'm going to go get ready to watch that. Excited for that. And then, yeah, obviously make sure you are a Sirius XM subscriber. Reality Check every Monday. I talk about, all the other reality shows. I think, this Monday, obviously I want to talk about the Chimp Crazy finale. Maybe we'll talk about last week's OC. I know that you probably saw that video on Shenanigans where I talked about Tamra supposedly contacting Andy about not liking what a caller said when they called in a reality check. I was never actually going to talk about that DM, but she brought it up on her podcast. So maybe I'll talk about that a little because I don't know if you saw the TikTok, Jen Pedranti commented on the TikTok about it too, saying Tamra tried to do the same thing to her. So maybe I'll talk about that a little on Reality Check. So anyways, make sure you're following Reality Check. Obviously follow me at The Talk of Shame, and obviously share this, get people to follow me here on YouTube, and we'll do I'm really going to try to do a live 5 times a week for you guys. We're going to have some fun. So thanks for joining, and I will talk to you later.